Hello! This video will be on the reports at conference. Generally, these are going to be different from the resolutions, which are voted on. Reports are just presented for the body. So, I want to start on Tuesday with the Laity Session. Every year, there's a session for the laity in Wisconsin, although clergy are certainly welcome to attend, that really focuses on the needs and issues of laity. Our bishop, He's So Young, gave a wonderful message on Ezra chapter 1, verses 1 through 7, comparing our return from the pandemic's exile to the Israelites' return from exile. His three main points were that return is a time for celebration, we're not going back to normal, but to a new reality, and we are bringing back with us a people who are richly diverse and inclusive. While there were priests among the Israelites as they returned from exile, it was the laity who made it work. Bishop Young recognized that our return from COVID-19 exile will depend greatly on the passion, vision, gifts, and resources of laity leaders to make it happen well. And for the session as a whole, the Laity Session really highlighted the diversity and inclusion efforts by individuals and organizations in Wisconsin, and all of these were lifted up, as well as Bishop Young's desire for the entire denomination to sit up and notice the Wisconsin Conference, and that it's a place for all people, in all places, at all times, modeling beloved community for the entire global denomination. And all are welcome here, just as all are welcome at the table of God. Not that we are already there, or even as close as we would like to be. We are looking forward to what is to come, in the knowledge of where we have been. And on this slide, I should note, these are the members of our conference board of laity. On Friday, one of the first things in the business session was the State of the Church address by Bishop Young. And he addressed mostly the theme for the next 4 years in the Wisconsin Conference: radical inclusion and racial justice. Some of the highlights are that we are one body with many members, being the incarnation of Christ in the world. Bishop Young recognized that there are multiple states in the church right now, calling out our consistent witness and the responses to the pandemic as United Methodists across the globe. Pandemic unity was contrasted with the division and differences in theology across geological and cultural and personal divides. The state of our global church is an upheaval not seen since the 1830s and 1840s over the role of laity and the system of U.S. slavery. While at present we disagree over issues like inclusion of LGBTQIA+ people and immigration policy in a seemingly inevitable separation, Bishop Young called for unity and deepest prayer for kindness and compassion. Wisconsin is a microcosm of the church and the world, and despite everything, the mission of the church is unchanged. From there, we went into statistical reports and the budget. For the statistical reports, we heard from the conference statistician who provided data and trends for our church's people and finances in the last year. There were some important numbers of note. Our conference had 2,000 fewer members in 2020, which is following a long-term trend in decreasing membership. Our racial breakdown of membership still skews more white than Wisconsin's population. And on the whole, 2020's numbers are all over the place due to the pandemic, which affects weekly worship numbers, the count of Christian formation groups, and local church income and assets. For the budget, there was an excellent video. I would encourage you to watch the video. It really breaks down everything very nicely and outlines what happened for the conference's finances in the last year. Apportionments were down 4% from 2020's estimate of 79% paid. And what that means is that the conference was budgeting that churches would pay 79% of what each church's responsibility is. And we were down 4%, so only 75% of apportionments were paid last year. And that led to a budget deficit of $400,000. However, there were significant savings in personnel costs and travel throughout the year. And once the pandemic hit, the conference made sure to be more frugal in its spending. The 2022 budget had a 1.8% increase with an estimate of 77% paid apportionments. There were some excellent updates from the General Conference and Jurisdictional Conference delegates, and their report was an excellent resource for getting up to speed about the global challenges facing our church, with the upcoming General Conference that's currently scheduled for next year. I highly encourage you to take a listen and be informed about what your Wisconsin delegates are working toward as they prepare to represent us. Because of the pandemic's delays, the important work of electing new bishops and redrawing annual conference boundaries has also been delayed. And the Wisconsin delegation has lost 2 members in the past year due to health problems and a death. The delegation has been in contact with the writers of the Christmas Covenant and are currently in favor of this plan for the upcoming General Conference. I highly encourage you to learn more about it, and the website is listed here on the slide. And if you'd like to learn more or contact the delegation for yourself, you can subscribe to the conference e-news where they frequently have updates, and the delegation's email address is here on the slide, as well as my written report. The setting of apportionments occurred where the appointments where clergy are stationed. Those locations were read aloud, and you can see the full list at that website. The United Methodist Foundation had a really interesting report using a Plinko board. They presented on New Way grants, which were up to $1,500 for video, sound, and online equipment. In 2 rounds of funding, a total of 364 churches were distributed almost $500,000 in the past year, which is pretty amazing. There were grants to provide seed money to start new ministries in 37 churches, totaling $77,000. And the foundation as a whole is responsible for about $140 million in socially responsible, discipline-guided financial management. The conference trustees also presented. In the past year, 10 grants have been awarded, totaling $114,000. And there were some grants for meeting accessibility standards that were awarded to 17 churches for up to $30,000 each. That way, our churches and facilities can be accessible for all. I labeled this slide the Sparks of Joy because I just thought there's some really, really cool reports. We recognized clergy with 25, 50, 60, and 70 plus years of service. This year's record was a clergy member with 74 years of service. That is a long time. There's the laity address, where our conference lay leader gave a message highlighting the losses and the gains of this past year, and how we can dream forward as a changed people, to take what we have learned into the future. She also thanked Sugar River by name for providing music for the Laity Session. And finally, we were greeted by the Bishop of the Korean Methodist Church, and they had a virtual choir from South Korea that had a recorded song. And this represented 100,000 members in that country, which is pretty cool. And finally, they announced the dates for Annual Conference 2022, which will be held in Green Bay on June 10th through 13th. And on this slide has some of the liturgists and musicians that were in some of the conference worship sessions. I want to thank you for watching to the end of this reports video, and stay tuned for the rest of the annual conference videos. Thank you.